Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Flint, Michigan marked the third anniversary of a tragic, tragic day. The day it discovered lead in its water pipes, and this lead was poisoning its people. Dr. Bob Sonawane, a toxicologist recently retired from EPA, is here to explain the danger that Flint residents faced and continue to face as they need to drink their water. Care of your teeth, our teeth, my teeth can help prevent problems that can be painful and difficult in the future and result in very, very serious health problems. Joy Hall, public health dental hygienist for CCI Health and Wellness Practice, tell us more about this, how we can avoid dangers of not looking after our oral hygiene. The Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation is a new entity in our beautiful county. And we've got Lynne Stein Benzion, Director of Business Retention and Expansion. She's here to introduce us to the new organization and tell us how well it is working for all of us. As many of us know, this is National Volunteer Week. EveryMind, formerly the Mental Health Association of Montgomery County, has marked the week with a celebration in honoring its loyal volunteers. Pamela Lee, Director of Volunteers, will tell us what the organization does, how people can sign up, and how they are celebrating their volunteers. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Don.
I'm going to say something to you, Bob. I'm going to come clean with you. We just don't have enough toxicologists on Montgomery Week in Review. You're the first toxicologist we've had in some time, so welcome.
Yes, thank you.
First of all, what is a toxicologist?
Toxicology is the chemicals that you find in the environment, or any chemical for that matter, which causes the toxic effects. It could cause cancer, it could cause reproductive effects, cause neurological effects, it could cause all kinds of health effects.
So things that are out there in the environment, bad for us, toxic to us.
Correct, at a certain level.
Certain level. Well, let's talk about Flint, Michigan. I mean, when we saw those poor people in Flint and all over, I guess, people doing some really bad things in government, and the entire population suffered. Why don't you take us back 3 years?
Well, actually, the story is not only a 3-year story, it's the 30th anniversary, but actually the story started in 2012, 2013,
okay,
when the Flint, Michigan decided, or the county council decided that they want to change the water pipe or the water supply system.
Right.
And they changed it from the Detroit water system to the Flint water system.
So they had it with Detroit, they had the pipes were all fine, and then they turned it over to come out of that
And the
that
reasoning was given that they will save $200 million over a period of 10 years by switching the water supply from Detroit to Flint, Michigan area.
So what happened? I mean,
What happened in 2014, you have to remember, 40% of the population of Flint is about African Americans.
Right.
It's a very poor population. And so when the water supply was changed, the pipes were changed, the people started noticing some changes in the color of the water.
Sure.
The smell to the water. They also felt that the water is harder than what it used to be.
Sure.
And some kids started complaining about all kinds of problems with the water.
So the people noticed.
Yeah.
The people knew immediately.
People immediately came to know there is a problem with the water system. So they approached the county council, and the county council said, no, this is seasonal changes.
Of course not.
Yes,
You're making this up.
You're making it up. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
So they started denying the fact there is some problem. Of course, at that point, nobody knew there was a.
So this is going on. So this is going on at the local Flint level.
Flint level.
You're there you're at EPA. How does it finally get to you
EPA
guys?
has a regional office. The EPA's regional office in Flint is actually the Chicago.
Okay.
Okay. So the story really broke by a pediatrician, Hurley Medical Center. Her name is Mona Anna Atisha.
Okay.
And she kind of suspected there's something wrong here, and so she did the measurement of the lead.
Okay.
Lead was the immediate suspicion.
In blood of a child,
she
or
did
in the
blood
water?
and also water. So the level of lead in the CDC level, acceptable level, is 5 micrograms per 100 ml of blood.
Okay, what does that mean? I mean, that's
means
just so teeny.
if you're exposed to a lead,
right?
the best biomarker to find out whether you're exposed to lead or not is the blood lead level.
No, I understand, but we're talking about like 1/1,000,000th of a. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, you have to speak
very
English to
small
us,
amount.
is parts per million. 1 ppm is parts per million.
right?
1 ppb means
Parts per billion.
parts per billion.
Right.
Okay. So the water standard for the EPA's water standard is 15 parts per billion,
Okay,
and they found 104 parts per billion in the water supply.
gotcha.
That's several times higher.
So we've got public health folks here. We've got Joy who's going to come
yeah.
next. What does this mean for the public health? Because we've got such a short time.
So
What does that mean with
serious
having lead?
problem. The lead is that there is no safe level of lead. Even we reduce this level of lead in the atmosphere in general, going back to 1970s when the lead was taken out of the gasoline.
Right.
Then also taken 1978.
But what is lead? What does lead do to us?
Lead is a very serious poison because it causes learning disabilities.
Okay.
It changes your IQ levels. If you have an IQ of 130, it can reduce any increase in the lead level from 1.3 to 4 micrograms per 100 ml of blood can decrease your IQ about 4 points or 7 points.
We have less than a minute left.
Yes.
Is there anything that individuals can do to decrease the amount of
The only and the
lead?
best measure to decrease the lead level is to not get exposed to lead. Changing the water pipes. If they are corroded, if the lead is being leaching out in the drinking water or in the pipes, is the best thing is to change the pipes. Of course, the poor population.
least coat
can't
'em.
afford it.
Right.
Yeah. it's
And
just-
there's once
there
you
is
have
a
an issue,
chelation
there's
therapy,
mostly-
which is kind of dangerous in some
Okay.
cases if it's not handled properly. Yes,
treatment.
chelation
Okay,
therapy.
I got you.
15 seconds left only. We could go on forever. What does this mean for Montgomery County?
I checked the Montgomery County report. It actually is meets the requirement or exceeds the requirement of the EPA in the Rockville recent data that showed in Montgomery County. It's excellent news. I'm not sure other counties
Okay.
like Baltimore. I'm not sure about
Okay.
that because there are a lot of inner old houses there and have lead bent.
So be on the lookout, see your toxicologist, and make sure it doesn't get. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joy to the world.
Yes.
You are here.
I'm here.
Talking, and I got just. It's a wonderful thing you're talking about oral hygiene because you have a beautiful smile.
I try.
I just think it's like you go to a dentist, you see your hygienist.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the provider at least takes care of their
Exactly.
teeth.
You're already feeling more confident. CCI Health and Wellness. We've had a number of people from CCI here. We've touched a little bit on the dentistry on the world. Tell us a little bit about what your segment of CCI Health and Wellness does in looking after people's oral hygiene.
Well, my segment is primarily about educating patients. A lot of times parents just don't know what they don't know. And so we do our very best to inform our patients at a very early age, at 6 months. So we typically recommend that children come to see the dentist at about 6 months of age so that we can begin to educate the parents about how to take care of their teeth, because we know that prevention actually saves money and it works. We know exactly how tooth decay develops, and we're able to actually provide tools for parents to prevent that from
I
occurring.
know there are a lot of questions here from everybody, but let me just quick question.
Yes.
Your CCI Health and Wellness looks after the part of the community that can't afford
Right,
health care.
right.
And a lot of immigrants, a lot of
Right.
undocumented, a lot of poor folks. What are the major issues that you find with dental care in terms of people in the education, that brushing is not enough, or people coming from countries where they're not brushing? What's the...
Well, at the Franklin Park location where I work, we actually have a refugee program. So we are actually getting some low-income patients that are coming from other countries,
Right.
Immigrants, and then we're also getting some of the refugees. And it really just depends. It varies. Some patients do brush their teeth; they just don't know how to brush their teeth properly. And it's
Okay.
it's not as simple as just putting toothpaste on a toothbrush and moving. You have to make sure that you're actually brushing the appropriate areas in your mouth to make sure that you're actually accessing the places where the bacteria most likely is going to reside. So a lot of the
How do you reach this community in terms of actually approaching this community? How You're volunteering?
I think
for it?
because we are already in the community, a lot of the patients already know about CCI. For example, the Franklin Park location that that I work in, it's actually in the community. It's the apartment homes are surrounding the location, so they know we're there, and we do a lot of outreach to the community to let them know that we do have services that will provide both primary care, mental health, prenatal care, oral health. So yeah, we reach out in that way because we're right there where they are.
And how are you funded?
Yeah.
We are federally funded. We receive government funding, and then also we get reimbursements from Medicaid, and because we do accept Medicaid. For those who don't have insurance, we actually provide a sliding scale, which means that they will bring in proof of income, and then we would let them, based on that, we will determine what scale they fall under. For example, for a patient who needs a regular cleaning, the lowest scale is $35. So it's pretty reasonable. We try to be as reasonable as we can.
What do
for
you
the
see the
community.
extent of the problem of this in the county?
From my perspective, I think that it's a lot more prevalent in both gum disease and dental decay. I know the CDC reports that about 50% of Americans have periodontitis, which is the type of gum disease where you're actually starting to lose bone,
Right.
and you're starting to have bleeding, and your gums are receding, and it's much more aggressive. So it's really surprising to find that 1 in every 2 people, have periodontal disease. Yes,
Wow.
very
Right.
significant.
But some of that's from too hard brushing too.
Yes,
Yeah.
hard brushing.
We just
Being aggressive can definitely.
aggressiveness.
You
I
don't
know,
want to.
hey.
You want to use a soft toothbrush too, because most patients are like, no, I
I've-
need to use that hard
I've
toothbrush. It's the only way.
I've been lectured too.
Yeah.
When you see people who come from other countries, do you notice a difference because they may or may not have been exposed to fluoride in their water? Do you see that?
That could definitely be. A lot of times, patients from other countries, they actually report that they are added. They're given like fluoride supplements, so it doesn't come in their water, but maybe their doctors prescribe a pill or something that they may have taken to supplement the difference.
We have 40 seconds left.
40 seconds left. I would just say, if you haven't
so
been to
sorry.
the dentist, please go to the dentist. We would love, CCI would love to partner with you in your oral health care. So
And if they come to Franklin, are they going to see you?
they'll see me. I'll be right there. Absolutely.
Do you feel like you're making progress?
I do. I think that every day we see patients that are improving their oral health care. We see patients that sometimes we can't treat them within our center, and we have wonderful community partners that they're able to receive the care. And I've seen kids that have come back to us who started off with almost every tooth with cavities, and they've come back and everything has been resolved. So
With a big smile.
with a big smile, absolutely.
Well, Joy, you leave us on a joyful note.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. Lynne, son of Zion, Lynne Benzion. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me today.
So economic development in this county has been a wonderful thing. I mean, we, from the county doing nothing to recognition that we have to compete, and so the government setting up its own economic development agency, and now it's evolved into another organization. Tell us about what's going on.
Absolutely. So Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation is a 501c3 nonprofit. The county outsources its economic development to us. And the reason you do that, it's very common in our circles to do
Okay.
that. And you do it for a couple of reasons. One, confidentiality is increased for companies that might be looking to move. They don't
Okay.
want anybody to know they're moving yet, least of all their employees, because they don't want to lose them. Flexibility, the ability to work with companies of all sizes and all types, and to really pivot quickly in response to their needs or
Right.
in response to economic changes, are very much enhanced by this structure.
I would also think that it gets a little dicey. You need to be making decisions based on economic and business issues, and not the politics can sometimes get messy in there. And not to say that it ever has, or
Not
ever
in
will,
Montgomery
but
County.
we'll just leave it exactly. We'll just leave it at that. So what do you do? And I also with that, what makes you excited to come in each day?
I have the best job in the world.
Well, let's hear
I
it.
do.
Let's hear
One of
about
the-
it.
And the reason I have the best job in the world, because I get to spend every single day visiting fabulous companies of all types here in the county and meeting the smartest people in the world. So just yesterday.
Whoa. Let's just make it, before you get to there, let's just make sure we understand. You have not been to my office. Clearly, I am not into the smartest thing. I know I'm a bottom half
Only
for
been doing it
Lynne. I'm
5
so sorry.
months.
No.
Give me time, give me a little time.
No, so give us some
No,
basic
it's fabulous. I mean, just yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit a small company in the life sciences space that is working on a cure for a horribly devastating genetic disease that affects children, and their parents watch them lose more and more neurological and other abilities until they die. And this company is really maybe very, very close to a therapy for that. That's amazing.
Right.
And that's happening right here in Montgomery County. And then in the afternoon, I got to visit a much larger company with over 500 employees that is working with scientific companies all over the world to do research and testing and long-term studies, and working with them. They're all math geniuses. It's amazing. And statistical geniuses. These are people who are our neighbors. I get to meet small businesses that are, maybe it's just one, maybe they're hiring a few people, and I get to connect them with companies and organizations that help them do it. What fun!
Lynne, what's the tax? Lynne, what's the tax breaks that the county offers to the companies to come in here?
There are some tax credits available for various things. Hiring is usually the major one. So if your company is going to be hiring a certain number of people and also expanding in terms of its space, retail space, so there's some of those. There are some financial incentives available to certain targeted industries, such as life science or perhaps IT. Generally, those are for companies that are up and running. And most people focus on the money, but I'm going to tell you honestly, the biggest thing we really have here is a support system. We have tremendous amounts of support for companies, both tiny and large, and that's what I can refer you to, and that's more important even.
And schools, and I mean, we look at one of the things you hear, listen, NPR, Fairfax County Economic Authority, and Houston, and come this and come that way. Looking especially around the Beltway, how it's a pretty strong competition with Fairfax, isn't it?
It really is, without a doubt, and that's a good thing. Actually, most of us economic developers in the area across state lines, we actually know each other. We go to the same conferences. We know each other. Over the long term, our job is to strengthen the economy, keep it diverse. Also to think about the quality of life here and make it a community, and we call it the top 5 U.S. community, the way we think of it, a community that young people and the next generation of workers will want to come to settle in, to work not just for their professional lives, but for their personal lives as well. And you talked about schools,
30
and that's
seconds.
a big piece.
We just have 30 seconds left. That's
and
it.
the other piece we're doing is growing the entrepreneurial sector here and the innovation sector. So those 3 things are where we play. And yeah, I do believe we're competitive, but we keep thinking of the things we can do today that will keep us competitive and make us even more competitive, not just tomorrow, but in 10 years.
We're done. Sorry. That's the last word.
That's all I get to say.
Continue the conversation afterwards. Continue the conversation with the Montgomery County Authority as well. This is great. Thank you very much. More business, more development, more jobs in Montgomery County.
More
jobs.
and more.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about.
And you know
Good
what?
jobs.
It can get kind of a pressure cooker in this county, and that's where we come up with EveryMind. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about what's going on with all of your great work, Pam, and volunteers. You rely, as most nonprofits do,
absolutely,
on an army of volunteers, Pam.
We do. So EveryMind, formerly Mental Health Association, we have about 500 volunteers each year that the value that they provide to us is over $1 million in service, which for a nonprofit is incredible. So while we appreciate our volunteers every day of the year, this week is actually a special week in that it's National Volunteer Week. So last night we actually had a big celebration at VisArts in downtown Rockville, where we appreciated and just had a get together with about 150 of our volunteers.
Tell me about what your volunteers do, because one of the things that I know we've had the work that's done at Walter Reed through one of the projects that EveryMind does, and we'd say, volunteers, well, we can't really have volunteers there. But elsewhere, you rely on so many of these, so tell us what your volunteers do.
Right. So our volunteers offer some critical support to a lot of the most vulnerable populations within Montgomery County. So something like the Montgomery County Hotline, which is a 24/7 crisis prevention and intervention service that is available to residents of Montgomery County. So they can call in at any time if they're facing any challenges or issues, anywhere from just needing a resource, needing a phone number of, maybe to get some dental care, or just to talk to someone.
Sure.
Maybe they're feeling depressed or sad for that day. Something happened at school.
So if I called, it would be staffed by a volunteer who was trained.
Trained, correct.
And so how do you
Yeah.
train your volunteers? Does that take a very long time?
Yes, it does. It's a very lengthy process. We do screen all of our volunteers, so we'll do reference checks, background checks. They also go through an accredited course, which is almost 40 hours in the classroom, and then additional experiential training before they're actually on the lines. So we train them with hotline services, online chat services, and now we also have a text line, which is something that we're really trying to push out to the younger generations that are not comfortable.
Yeah, because they don't understand that this thing used to be called a phone. It's
Exactly.
it's now a
It's not
texting. It's now a texting
Exactly.
machine.
And
So
I
sad.
mean, we sadly get some very young callers and texters that call in, and we experience anything from someone just having a bad day at school or not comfortable talking to their parents to someone that's close to ending their life.
Sure.
Wow.
So what kind of social problems do you see in the county, like violence, alcoholism?
Well, we see it all. I mean, now, one of the topics of discussion now is one of the Netflix series that has become very popular, 13 Reasons Why, which, there's some controversy over, whether it's glorifying suicide or is it really helping or hurting the issue of suicide. And as you all probably heard, there have been some Facebook Live in the news a lot. So, I mean, it really depends on the time of year. Around the election, we had a higher number of callers, calling in with personal anxiety,
Are any of the
fear.
Are any of the volunteers people that actually receive some services from your organization?
So one of the requirements is that you cannot have called the hotline in the past 3 years.
Okay.
However, we do like to get volunteers on board that have had some sort of personal trauma or experience or some sort of connection
Sure.
to mental health and wellness, because they really have that passion and that drive and understanding to pick up the call of someone that is vulnerable.
As we've learned on this show many times with some of your colleagues, there's no one who has not experienced mental health.
Exactly, which is
issues.
where EveryMind, that was
EveryMind.
part of our
Right.
rebrand actually. When you hear the term mental health, a lot of people associate it with
Them.
something negative.
Right.
Right.
And you say
it's
mental
health.
health and you say, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
So part of our rebrand is to try and change the conversation more into mental wellness and how mental wellness affects everyone. So which EveryMind needs that care and that support, and
There's only
everyone
about
matters.
only 30 seconds left. Again, we could have gone on with each one of these.
What can we do
Yes.
for our own mental wellness?
And,
For
and
your
also,
own
what can we do to
mental-
volunteer too?
actually volunteerism is wonderful for your mental wellness. So, giving service and giving back is one of the best things that you can do. And we have, I talked about the hotline, but we have so many different opportunities with EveryMind that, are on our website. We partner with Montgomery County to recruit volunteers throughout the county as well.
So volunteer, EveryMind, we've got economic development and jobs, take care of your teeth and oral hygiene, and hopefully your water is going to be clean. Appreciate you all. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Thank
Thank
you.
all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.